everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, December 28th of 2025. First of all, thank you for pressing play. I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful for all of the people that have been kind of watching and following along for all of these months and all of these years, and especially as we wind up this amazing year of change that has been 2025. And I'm sure many of you have felt that as well. Now, the very first thing I wanted to kind of touch on was the idea that we are in and wrapping up a 9-year. So in Chinese numerology, this has been the year of the snake, shedding old skin, and we're moving into a 1 year, and then it continues a 2 year the next year until we hit 9 again, and then we're at a 1 year. So I think this is really fascinating, and I just wanted to pipe in with a couple of thoughts about what this means. If this is something you've never heard of, or if this is something you have studied deeply, it's almost like studying not just numerology, but astrology. It's like a language. And even though we live in this matrix and astrology and all of the things are part of the program, there are guidances and there are energies that are associated with this. So to me, all of this is fascinating, and it all requires touching on here and there. So I just thought I would really briefly just tell you what the end of the year of the snake means as we move into the year of the horse, which is a 1 year. So the snake symbolizes intuition, hidden truths, and deep transformation. As this energy completes its cycle in 2025, humanity may feel the closing of a period marked by introspection, unveiling, and the surfacing of long buried issues, individually and collectively. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Now, entering the year of the horse, which is 2026, the horse brings momentum, freedom, innovation, and bold movement. That's one of the things I love the most about a 1 year is we're talking about action. Shedding old skins from a year 9, but as we move into this new year, we're talking about bold movement, which I absolutely love that. So this shift often represents humanity stepping out of contemplation and into action, breaking constraints, moving rapidly toward new systems, ideas, and social direction. I thought that would be a really kind of fascinating way to start this, because what came through in my journaling all week long, the number one thing I really had at the forefront is as we move into this new year, as we watch what the world is doing and the things that maybe scare us as humanity or give us a moment of pause or whatever, instead of saying what's the worst that can happen, I wanted to swap that. And I've kind of been talking about this the last few weeks, but I wanted to think about what is the best that can happen out of these times that we're in. And I think if we switch our mindset to that, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, right? So it's a situation like that. It's like all the good things that are happening, all the good things that this chaos is bringing, you might not be able to see it. So instead of saying what is the worst that can happen, I think you should prepare for the worst, but what is the best that can happen? So the very first thing that I actually came up with, which is kind of fascinating, is I feel like what's happening is that we are moving out of adolescence as a species. So think about the human species. We've been in this adolescent period where things trigger us, and I'm talking about collectively, because of course, threaded through all of this, there are wisdom keepers and people who've always been on a higher timeline and people who've always vibrated with higher frequencies. And there's always been that. But I'm talking about collectively as humanity. We have been in adolescence, and think about people who are going through adolescence and they're basically children. So here's what I wrote. So the best thing that can happen is that we can stop being children. Okay. And I'm talking collectively, and I'm not talking about emotionally. I'm talking about existentially. Okay. So here's what I think happens when you're a child, whether you're 90 years old right now, or 70 or 50 or 30, whether you're an adult in chronological years, but as a species, you're still trapped in part of that adolescence. So here's what children believe. We believe that someone is in charge. We believe that someone will fix it. And we believe that someone else knows better. Someone knows better, not us. Okay. So what is happening, I believe, is that this whole myth about someone's going to save us, someone's going to fix it, someone else is responsible for that. This is a myth that's collapsing. This is so obvious that we are the ones that are responsible for the outcomes in our life and everything that comes along with that. Okay, so the best outcome is not what we would consider safety, but it's adulthood. We are now moving as a species collectively into adulthood. Now, are there going to be some people that are going to be left behind as far as, and I'm just talking about there's always a percentage who doesn't come along with what's happening. Okay. So this is what adulthood means to me. Adulthood means there's no saviors, there's no parents, quote, quote, parents. There's no invisible hand. I don't need, someone else telling me what to do. I get to be responsible. And I'm not talking about not following the rules of society that keep society functioning and cohesive. I'm talking about personal individual responsibility. That is what being an adult means, and all of the things that happen along with it. I think that is honestly what we're moving into. So no saviors, no parents, and no invisible hand, only responsibility, choice, and then the most important thing, consequence. Because when we do actions, when we do things that aren't congruent with whatever, there are always consequences, and not just bad consequences, but good consequences. Okay, there are always consequences, and that's partly what being an adult means, right? This can be terrifying to think about that. This can be really terrifying, but then what I wrote is this, but this is freedom. This is freedom. Responsibility equals freedom. In fact, earlier this year, I think it was in July, I did a video all about when you take responsibility, you are equaling freedom. That is freedom. It's freedom from everything when you take personal responsibility. So you think about that, like when you take responsibility for your health and your fitness and all the things that come along with that, that is freedom. You can now move through your life and take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of all the things that you want to do. And then you can also enjoy the experience of being in this physical body. So you take responsibility for your health and it gives you freedom. You take responsibility for your finances, it gives you freedom. So responsibility equals freedom. So beautiful. Okay, so then I wrote this. The best thing that can happen is that truth becomes more valuable than comfort. Okay, so that's one of the best things that I believe is happening right now, that the truth is much more valuable than being comfortable. When you start to go down different rabbit holes and you start to go down different things that rock the truth, right? It can be terrifying. But the interesting thing is you start to value truth more than comfort. It might seem so easy to stick your head in the sand, but then at the end of the day, that's actually the worst place you want to be because you're completely ignorant to everything. I would rather know the truth. And for me, it's become feeling the truth. What do I feel? What does my gut say? What does my intuition say? That is what that's all about. So for a long time, what I think's been happening for decades is the truth has felt optional. For many people, it's just optional. It's like, it's just easier to be over here, coasting along, doing my thing, being a consumer, all the stuff, right? So here's what I wrote. It feels like we could live inside the lies that happen if they pay well, they entertain us, or they numb us. Feels like it's just easier to live inside the lie. If they entertain us, it pays us well. Think about someone who works in an industry. Maybe they went to school for something. Maybe they got all trained up. Maybe they spent 20 years doing a career, and then 2020 hit, and they realized, holy crap, that was all a lie. And was it easier to stay in the lie because it paid you well? And this can be, applied to anything, any job, any situation, anything that feels like, what do I do now? Oh crap, because it pays me well. I don't have a choice. Okay. So we could live inside these lies. If they pay well, they entertain us, or they numb us. Crazy, right? Now what I think is happening really, and I've watched many, many people opt out of things so courageously, is that lies are now very expensive. The lie is an expensive way to live because it really never serves you. Okay. It's kind of interesting to look at it that way. So this is what I think they cost us, because to me, it's like you pay now or you pay later. It's like someone who doesn't take care of their health because they're young and they're healthy and they can, eat all the junk food they want and not exercise and drink too much alcohol, and it'll eventually catch up with them. Okay, so here's the things that these the truth if you don't live by the truth and you just play along with the lies, this is what it costs you: your mental health, your physical health, your dignity, your coherence, and your peace. When we don't live in truth, it costs us our peace eventually. And you might be able to numb yourself out for a while. You might be able to distract yourself for a while. You might live in denial for a while, but these are all the things that this costs you. So the best that can happen is that people choose truth, because the lying, it hurts too much to keep it sustained. It's not sustainable. And you might have to blow up a foundation. You might have to blow up something you've worked for. But if you start to realize that there is abundance and high frequencies that's available for everyone, when you live in congruence with the truth, everything changes. And I believe this is one of the best things that is coming out of all the changes that humanity is facing right now. Okay, so when people choose the truth because the lying hurts too much to sustain, that changes everything. So that's what I wrote. That changes everything. So beautiful. Okay, now another thing that is one of the best things I think that can happen is that when the collapse happens, it separates the signal from the noise. Okay, so for this last couple of years especially, I've been talking a lot about frequencies and quantum entanglement and tuning into the right radio station frequency, because you can have a rock station over here and a jazz station over here, and they're both going at the same time. But now you can tune into the frequency you want. And now we're not just tuning into the right signal, we're actually cutting out the static or cutting out the noise. So here's what I mean by that. When the systems function, okay, so think about this. When the systems that we have in place function, this is where parasites thrive. And think about all the energetic parasites, okay, or all the things that are parasitic, not just like literal parasites that might be inside our body, but the parasites that actually thrive inside of systems that don't serve humanity. Okay, so this is what happens when things are collapsing. Okay, the pretenders are exposed. Performers are useless, because something performative is not, it's not sustainable. It's just performative. It's not, there's no depth to it. There's no wisdom to it. It's simply performative. Like, to me, that is so powerful. And the talkers are irrelevant. Okay, think about that. So to me, this is where the beauty of becoming a listener and talking, pausing, listening, reaching, like, this is one of the most beautiful things about learning the art of listening. Okay. And then this is what I think becomes so valuable, and one of the best things that I already see happening. Only people who can grow our own food, heal our bodies, calm our nervous system. So think about breathing and meditation and, emotional stress release and sound work and all the stuff, right? Build trust, think clearly under pressure matter. Only these things, you start to realize what really matters. This is the underlying foundation of things that I believe humanity is doing and has been doing now pretty hardcore for the last 5 or 6 years, because the systems have been exposed for what they are. So to me, this is one of the best things that can happen and has been happening. It's, to me, so beautiful, because these are really the things that matter. Think about if you know how to heal yourself. That matters. That's so huge. Think about if you know how to calm your nervous system. If you can do that by simple, deep, intentional breath work, just by breathing differently, getting still for a minute. That matters, because look at all the people with mental health issues and all the systems that have been built on treating people forever. You never ever get out of therapy, So the best that can happen is that reality becomes a filter. So the reality that we see now is a filter. We filter everything that we do, everything that we see, every decision we make, we put it through this filter. Reality is now the filter, okay? And we don't need any algorithms. So I wrote here, no algorithms are needed. Okay, so the next best thing that can happen is this one. It's really great. That the power loses its costume. So think about the costume that gets put on, right? It's just a costume. You put a costume on. It's like the wizard behind the screen. There's no power there. It's just a screen. It's just a costume. It's just a voice, right? So here's what I think. I think that power only survives in an illusionary state. So power survives by illusion. Okay. And what these are three things: authority without wisdom. So think about that. Think about authority. Think about the people who are in charge on almost every level, not just on a global level, a country level, a state level, a local level, even a school. We have authority without wisdom. And it's an illusion. It's an illusion. Expertise without accountability. That says it all. And then this is huge: legality without morality. And you can put that wherever you want to put that. Okay, you think about the things that we consider the things that we do in our legal system, and the things that we think are legal, and there's no morality, and there might be woven in some, there might be some of that woven in. So I'm just saying that's kind of a blanket if you really look at the whole thing. Okay, so what I think is this: when institutions contradict lived reality long enough, the costume tears apart. It's not sustainable. The costume comes apart, comes off. Okay. So the best thing that can happen is that we can stop confusing force with legitimacy. So think about this is part of moving into adulthood, moving out of adolescence. Like, think about that. Okay. People stop confusing force with legitimacy. That's pretty powerful. When this confusion ends, what happens with the forces that be and what feels like tyranny, that becomes fragile. The tyranny, and look at all the layers of how the things we've been forced to do as humanity. If you've gone down any rabbit holes about your birth certificate or your social security number, or the layers of things that they put on us to enslave us from birth, and a whole bunch of all the stuff, that's tyranny. And when those things are exposed and the costume tears, tyranny becomes fragile, as it should be. Okay, so another thing I wrote here about one of the best things that can happen is, so think about this: suffering. Think about all the layers of human suffering. It stops being numbed or anesthetized. So you think about all the things that numb us out to the suffering. You think even about social media. You think about all the distractions with all the content. You think about alcohol. You think about drugs. You think about all the food, the food addiction. You think about all of the things that numb us out. So one of the best things that's happening is that suffering stops being numbed out or anesthetized. So here's what I wrote. For decades, it feels like decades, it feels like my whole lifetime, pain was managed. It was not addressed. I've done 6 interviews with Stephen Ozanich, who wrote a book called The Great Pain Deception. And they live on this channel, on the YouTube channel. And this to me feels like the puzzle piece to healing chronic pain. So instead of just doing all the treatments, and I have personal experience with this, and this is why I became such good friends with Stephen, who wrote this book. He based his work on his own experience and Dr. John Sarno, who has since passed on. He was in his 90s. His work is beautiful. And I would suggest, if you have chronic pain, that this be something you look into, especially if you're ready to heal. So what I wrote is, for decades and almost all my life, pain was managed and not addressed. So here's the list of the things: pills, scrolling, entertainment, labels, all the diagnoses they give us, all the labels and diagnoses, and everything except stillness. Stillness heals. Now, some things might come up. Okay, so here's what I wrote. So I think all of these things, they're starting to fail. And this feels like one of the best things that could ever happen. Now, is it painful as humanity? Because adolescence can be freaking painful, right? And that, as a collective humanity, is what we've been going through for thousands of years, is painful adolescence. Okay. So the best thing that can happen is people finally start feeling what we've been avoiding. It feels easier just to avoid pain. Okay, I know I need to come home from work and go for a walk, or or whatever it is that you need to do. Uh, but I deserve to lay on the couch and just scroll social media and just waste because you feel like you deserve it. But that's just numbing out. Okay, and I really believe these days are starting to change and end. So many people are not just talking about it; they're putting it into practice, and I see that everywhere around me. Okay, so people are finally starting to feel what we've been avoiding. And this is not to wallow in it. This is not to wallow in your sadness, you know, oh, poor pitiful me. But this is to actually, what I like to say, metabolize it. Because when you feel something and you really, really, really feel it, and then you can release it. And but you have to feel it. You have to feel this, like if as humans, we have sadness because first of all we lose people we love, because that is part of the human experience. This is finite. And as a person who's lost both my parents and one sibling and a couple of young nephews, um, and other grandparents and other people in my life, um, there is real sadness there. And I know people who can't metabolize their sadness, and they can't metabolize their anger, or they can't metabolize their frustration, or their whatever the feeling is that they're having, and especially these lower frequency feelings. Okay, so here's what I wrote, and this is so true. When you have unfelt pain, it actually runs and ruins society. It runs society. We run on these frequencies of sadness and fear and, you know, all of that thing, all the stuff. And when we actually feel the pain, it can transform a society. So felt pain. And that might sound like who needs to, who wants that? But it's part of the human experience, and then being able to let it go. Like there's a beautiful, beautiful book I read a long time ago called Letting Go by Michael Singer. Beautiful. And that would be a book recommendation I would suggest anybody pick up and read. I probably read it 3 or 4 times, and it there's always beautiful things that land in it every single time, because there are things that we hold on to because we let them define us. It's like if I wasn't sad about something, what would happen if I had to let that go? Because then it always gives you something to fall back on, or whatever. I think some of these things we hold on to, maybe a little bit subconsciously. We don't really realize it. So to me, releasing and feeling the pain and releasing it is one of the best things that I feel is happening right now. Okay, so this one is so beautiful. So one of the best things that can happen as we move forward into 2026 is that we rediscover that the things that are ordinary are sacred. Just standing on the ground and grounding yourself, looking at the clouds that aren't geoengineered. I had to throw that in there. But looking at the simple things that are just sacred, the ordinary things. Okay, so here's what I wrote. When abundance is artificial. Okay, so think about that. When abundance is artificial, nothing is valued. Okay, and then this is what happens when all this convenience stuff collapses. Okay, so think about all the things that are so we've gotten into this place where we've been encouraged to be consumers on the highest level. And we just passed Christmas this week, so consumerism. I hope your Christmas was maybe a little different than usual, but if not, there is a gratitude piece of all of that as well. But here's what I wrote. When all this convenience stuff collapses, here's what really matters: clean water, healthy soil, and then I wrote this: hands matter. When we have the human touch, when we get our hands in the soil, when we do service for other people, hands matter. What we create with our hands, those things matter. Your neighbors matter, and time matters. Now I know time is a construct. If you look at anything that's matrixy, or you look at these things in the simulation we're in, but in this simulation that we're in, time matters, and you start to recognize that. and you don't waste it, because we are here for a finite experience, right? So time does matter. So the best thing that can happen is this: life becomes tangible again. You think about all of these things, the water, the soil, the food, being neighborly, you know, just remembering unity and compassion. Okay. And life becomes tangible again, because it's not tangible when it's all on your screen. That's not tangible. Okay. So this is how I ended this part. That's where reverence lives, is in the ordinary, not in ideology. Okay, that's where reverence lives, is in this ordinary. The ordinary things are the beautiful things. It's like what they say about, your life is not what happens at the end of it. What makes your life is the journey through it. The journey, like today, this day today, this beautiful Sunday at the end of 2025, sitting here in this moment, this is what matters. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so another best thing that can happen is that false unity dies. So think about the thing, and I just mentioned briefly on unity, and real and then real unity can exist. Okay, so what I mean by that is this. Okay, much of what we called togetherness. Okay, and think about what happened in 2020 when they locked us all down. Okay, that was forced on us. That was compliance. That was forced unity. Okay, that was just compliance, right? So real unity is forged under strain, not slogans. So when you have real unity, okay, it's forged under strain. So think about that, not slogans, okay? The best that can happen is people stop pretending to agree. So think about that and start learning to coexist. That's the magic. We stop pretending, okay? We stop pretending to agree, because then you might have some dark place in your heart, or you talk about people behind their back, and you're just pretending. And we start learning how to really coexist. It's okay if we're different. We're supposed to be different. We're supposed to be different. And all the powers that be, all the powers that control us, we are the ants, remember, guys? It's those grasshoppers in that crazy movie A Bug's Life. We are the ones that outnumber the ants. Okay? So when we stop pretending to agree and start learning to coexist, this is what it requires of us, okay? Boundaries, listening, there's that listening, humility, and shared labor, okay? And everyone can contribute differently and on different levels. We all have different skills, we have different interests, and we have different abilities. We have different, maybe things that aren't perfect, that we maybe can't contribute as much as we like. Maybe there's a physical disability. We all contribute differently. So boundaries, listening, it takes humility. We have to be humble, and shared labor. So here's what I wrote. Peace without depth is just propaganda. Okay? And peace with depth is earned. When we have peace with depth, we have to earn that. And I think, just some people come in with that, and some of us, it takes us decades to get there, Okay, now the next best thing that can happen, and this one feels really pivotal to me. They all do, but this one feels like, because it's really important to pay attention to what money is, okay? And I touch on this here and there throughout these videos that I do. So the best thing that can happen is that money loses its claim on meaning. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. Because we need money to exist and to trade with each other. Not for everything. I know there's bartering and there's trading and there's different ways, but money loses its claim on meaning. So here's what I wrote. When money works, okay, now think about this. It's going to kind of throw you for a loop. When money works, people tolerate absurdity. I mean, think about the money system. Think about the tax system. You can spend 30 years paying off your mortgage, and then if you don't pay your property tax, you could lose it. Like, that's absurd. That this is a money system that's working, and it's absurd. There are now, from what I understand, I heard this the other day, that they're actually letting people do a 50-year mortgage. Like, let talk about an enslavement system. Okay, that's absurdity. You look at even a 30-year mortgage is absurd. Anyway, so when money doesn't work in an absurd level, this is what will happen. Purpose must stand alone. Work must make sense. Think about all the work that's done that does not make sense. You know, my son, Scott, just showed me a video this week, and it's about something called dark fiber. When they put all the fiber in for when the internet went in, and most of it now is not being used, and billions of dollars were spent. Like there was no there was no forward looking. Anyway, that just kind of example came to my mind. So work must make sense, okay? And contribution becomes visible. You know, that's kind of covers a wide umbrella. So the best thing that can happen is value reconnects to usefulness, not abstraction. Okay, so you have to really think about when you contribute, does it bring value? Is it useful? Okay, not just abstraction. There's a lot of things that are, you know, it's just such an interesting, you know, I'd love to know what you guys think about this because some of these are really big things that have a lot of nuances to them. You know, I'd love to hear what you think about that. So this is an economic and spiritual revolution. So there are big money changes coming from my perspective and the things that I study. And like I said, I've touched on this before, and it really fascinates me. I know money can like in economics and the way the world works and like with especially with finances is really intimidating to some people because we're just not taught it. I wasn't taught about money growing up. And I think that's probably pretty common for a lot of people. It was like, as parents, you don't want to bother your kids with what money's doing, and you don't want them to worry about if you couldn't pay bills or whatever. But it's always fascinated me, and I've been interested in what makes economies work and what makes money systems. Like we're in such an interesting time. Okay, so I think it's an economic and spiritual revolution around money. And this is all my opinion and my perspective. And I certainly am not a financial guru or advisor on any level. I know this is just a piece of the way the world works that interests me. And so I pay attention. Okay, so the next thing I wrote is that one of the best things that can happen, and this one is so great, fear burns itself out. Okay, aren't you tired of the powers that be and all the stuff? Fear, 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 fear. You know, this is where you just have to go, I am opting out of that, you know, and it doesn't matter. Like you really look at all the stuff that's happening and you look at all the platforms that are now out, even that have been exploding since 2020, even in alternative media. I mean, there are things now that I don't ever tune into anymore. And you know, like Alex Jones, I watched him some, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, all look at all the stuff. Look at these platforms, and they're still distracting us. They're still pulling us away from our humanness and our truth. And politics, that's a whole thing, right? So to me, I'm coming back to my humanness and all of these things that I know, because we're moving out of that. All that stuff is still adolescence, guys. All those, you know, all of that. It's all distractions, and it's all just you staying in your teenage mode. That sounded kind of harsh. I didn't mean it that way. Okay, so here, let's talk about fear. Okay, so fear is powerful, but it's not infinite. You can't keep scaring the crap out of people forever. It's not infinite, because eventually you go, well, that didn't happen, or I let that make me afraid for why, or you know, fear is a choice. Fear is a choice. And the power of fear, the source of fear is not infinite, okay? So fear is powerful, but it's not infinite. That's what I wrote. So when you have sustained fear, like, and I still see people who lived in sustained fear all through, like from 2020, I still see people who were not able to get out of that. So here's what I wrote. When you have sustained fear, it looks like this. There's fatigue, there's disillusionment, then there's defiance, and then there becomes clarity, right? And then sometimes some people don't find clarity, and they just stay wrapped in that fear. It's so interesting to me. So the best thing that can happen is that people stop reacting and we just start choosing. We just choose different. choose love, choose joy. I've decided that 2026 is the year of joy. This is the year when I find joy and I search out joy. In fact, my nephew wrote a book this year that really, he's written about 10 books, but this is Benjamin Hardy, and the book he wrote this year is called The Science of Scaling, and it's an entrepreneurial book. It's about scaling your company. And what I was having a great conversation with a friend this week, and he's also a business owner, and he read the book and I read the book. We talked about it. It was great concepts, and I said, I'm going to take the concepts in this book, The Science of Scaling, and I'm going to add the word joy, the science of scaling joy, because it basically, you raise the floor of what you accept in your life. And let's be in the pursuit of joy. Okay. We get to choose. So people stop reacting and we start choosing. This moment is quiet. When you choose love, joy, now sometimes it can come in the form of laughter, and which is amazing. You should laugh at least once a day. It's so good and so healthy for you. But most of the time it's quiet. And then what I wrote, and it's unstoppable. This type of momentum, when we lose the fear and we just move into love, it's unstoppable. But it can be quiet. It can be quiet. Okay, so then the last thing I wrote down here is, what is the best that can happen? And this one to me ties it all together, is that we can remember who we are. And I believe that's what's happening. This is the best that can happen. So instead of what's the worst that can happen, and we are remembering on higher percentages, I believe, than we've ever remembered before as a human species. This is why I believe that there is an end to adolescence. There's an end. It's ending. Now, there's going to be outskirts. There's always going to be teenagers. There's always going to be teenagers. And I'm talking about literally and figuratively. Some people are going to stay in adolescence, but I think as a majority, as a species, we are rising into adulthood. Okay. So basically one of the best things is we can remember who we are. Okay. And this is the important piece. We need to remember we're not consumers. We're not patients, like the doctor giving us things and covering up everything with pills. So a patient, we're not patients. We're not consumers or patients. We are not data points, and we are not problems to be managed. That is so beautiful. We are living beings, and we are capable of these things. Love without permission, care without institutions, okay? And meaning without narratives. We don't need a narrative to give life meaning and to remember who we are. So the best thing that can happen here, remembering who we are, is that humanity, us, humanity collective, we reclaim our inner authority. We are our inner authority, us. We are the ones. We are the ones we've been waiting for. How many times have you heard that from some of the people that you've been listening to and following? Me, I'm the one I've been waiting for all along. And remembering that is so powerful. So then I wrote this: there's no collapse that can stop this once it begins. Once this, and I believe we're there. Okay, I believe we're there. So here's something I'm gonna end with. So to me, this is a really beautiful way to end this. Okay, so this is not a dark night of the soul. It is the end of adolescence as a species. Okay, adolescence wants freedom without responsibility, power without maturity, and comfort without cost. And those illusions, they're dying. The best that can happen is not that we win, it's that we grow up. And grown-ups don't need to dominate, poison, numb, or hoard. They build, they tend, and they protect life. And not just congruently, but quietly and relentlessly. And as we move into this beautiful 1 year, year of the horse, the forward motion, big movement, and out of the year of the snake, where we're shedding old skin, I hope that you have as much brilliant joy in thinking about where humanity is heading, and out of adolescence into adulthood, Finally. That's what it really feels like to me. And as a person who's lived through a lot in these last 6.5 decades, I feel blessed to have watched all of the changes of humanity and also the awakening of humanity in the remembrance of who we really are. So thanks for tuning in on this last Sunday of 2025. I am so grateful that I get to jump on here and connect and hopefully bring a little nugget of something that's going to lighten your day and give you, I hesitate to say the word hope because I heard once that hope is a beggar. And you're hoping something happens, but maybe a bright vision for what I see as inevitable. I think where we're going as a human species into this beautiful, responsible adulthood is nothing but brilliant. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. I love you so much, and we will see you next year.